What's up?
What's up, peeps? Welcome to the Game On Nation live stream.
I'm Steve Shemba.
I'm Jason Martinez. But, you know, I do have a nickname, and it's Yay Yay.
Yay Yay.
And my grandmother gave me that nickname when I was a kid.
Uh-huh.
And since we're all friends and family,
Yeah.
you can call me Yay Yay as well.
I have a nickname.
Oh, yeah?
I do.
Shani.
It's supposed to be Shenny, but it was Shemmy. And this has sort of this could connect back to Help Me Understand, which is our theme.
Yes.
I'm going to tee that up.
Yeah.
The theme is Help Me Understand. Wrote a blog earlier in the week. Help Me Understand. But, you know, it's funny. Yay Yay is Jason's nickname. Grandma gave it to you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a nickname. You went with Shenny, which is way it should be. Shenbomb is Shenny. But for some reason, when I went to college, a buddy of mine started calling me Shemmy, as if it was Shem Bomb, right?
Oh, gotcha.
And I didn't stop him to be like, actually, my name is spelled Shen Bomb. And I'm actually glad I didn't, because Shemmy just sounds a little better than Shenny.
Okay.
But that's it.
Shemmy. I like Shemmy, but do you want to make a decision right now to change to Shenny?
No, I'm 51 years old, and you don't change your nickname at 51. Nothing against 51-years-olds, but that'd be more like a midlife crisis. Anyway,
you could imagine going to the basketball court now and
be
like,
yo,
change my nickname.
No, it's stuck. Anyway, we are talking about Help Me Understand, and I don't know. This is passion. I'm passionate about this. You can chat in. Jason's controlling the computer here, so we can see you chatting in. Some of you folks listening and watching, you may not be able to chat in because you're coming in from a different device, but we see you and we hear you. You know, this actually, I have to give credit where credit's due. Our colleague Aaron Watson, we were chatting about something last week. Aaron's our director of client experience, and I said to her, "Hey, Aaron, you know, help me understand what's going on here," because she had more authority and skill in what we were discussing.
Right.
And she broke it down for me and showed me way more detail and facts than I had originally had. And so she basically, in a half-hour period, completely changed my position on a situation.
Okay.
By basically saying, Steve, let me give you some detail behind it. I basically said, help me understand why we came to that decision. And I think maybe old Steve Shemmy may have been like, I'm really upset with this decision. I think this is a wrong decision. You know, something kind of quick and trite.
What moved inside of you that prompted you to seek that understanding?
Because I had made too many mistakes doing it the other way.
Oh, and the other way being
like, you're wrong. The phrases that I use in the blog and I hear a lot. We all do it. I'm guilty. That doesn't make any sense. You're wrong. That's silly. Whatever. There's like a bunch of different phrases. You're wrong. That doesn't make any sense. That's totally wrong.
And I would also add to that a tone that comes along with
big
it.
Time.
Right? Because saying, being like pointing out somebody is like actually wrong.
Yeah.
And being like, hey, you're wrong here. Like this equation actually adds up to this versus you're wrong.
Yeah.
Like there's a tone there as well.
Big time.
Yeah.
And I think that, get back to your question, like, why did I shift? Because in the past I have had bad tone, because those phrases are hard to have good tone. They really are.
No, why did you shift? But what was the recognition of it, like of going through that process of being like, man, I'm actually approaching people with a tone that doesn't allow us to get to a certain spot because I'm automatically shutting them down with these phrases.
I think what had happened, I'm sure we've all experienced this, is we go in with you're totally wrong, or you made the wrong decision. Then afterwards you get more information and you sit there and think, wow, if I would have had this information prior, I would not have said you're totally wrong. It just, it saves.
And you probably felt a little bad about it.
I was going to say, it saves time. I think it also saves the shame. You know, the time is one thing. If you're running a business, you're an educator, you're a teacher, you're a leader, but like part of it. So that time, you just don't want to like miss stuff because then you got to redo it. But also it's just like, if I would just slow down a second and been like, Jason, hey, break this down for me a little bit. Help me understand. I'm coming in sideways here. Help me understand why we came to this conclusion. And it just allows a person to breathe. It empowers, I think. Let's go back to Aaron. It empowered Aaron to go, well, I can explain it. Right. She did. And then I looked at her and I was like, oh, wow, I did not know any of that. And now that you've told me that, I understand. Therefore, I retract what I was about to say.
And there's also when you talk about the empowerment, like that can take a person from feeling shamed,
Yep.
right? Because you said the word shame, and I think there's two sides to that. The leader that, and I'm putting the person in the leadership role, the one that's like, you're wrong, but
Yeah.
or anybody in that role, like I feel like often, because I've been in those positions as well, we might walk away from that conversation and we feel some type of way,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Totally.
And being able to say, help me understand, it's freeing.
Big time.
It frees you of that kind of sense of guilt, maybe,
Yeah.
that you feel by, and oftentimes it might come across as like disempowering someone,
Right.
right? And so saying help me understand is a freeing statement.
And going back to what you said, tone is key on that as well.
Yeah.
Tone is key on when we say, hey, you're wrong. Hey, that doesn't make any sense.
Mhm.
That doesn't add up. Right. Also, tone is key. And when you say help me understand, you also have to be cool. Like, you don't want to say it like, prove it to me. Prove it to me. You know, it's help me understand. And this is really important.
It's good.
You will still get the proof. That's the thing. Like, even if you say it lovingly and with a what I call a heart posture, like, again, I'll just use you, Jason. If I said, hey, Jason, you know, help me understand, like, walk me through this a little bit. It is putting you in a position where you're empowered, you have space, but let's be real. You're also going to then have to walk it through.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to start to get to the substance, and you're going to have to start to come up with some facts, not because I am putting you on the defensive. We're both like, hey, let's walk this through. I will tell you, when someone has said to me, help me understand, two things have occurred. I either walk it through like Aaron did, and then they have more clarity. But let's get like real vulnerable. It's not always the situation that Aaron and I were in, where Aaron clarified for me. Sometimes I've been asked, help me understand. I start walking it through. And you know what, leaders? We realize my position was not based on a strong foundation.
Mm-hmm.
You with me?
Yeah.
And it's not that I got put on the defensive, but I got challenged in a loving way to say, Steve, let's talk this through. And I start to walk it through, and I realize, you know what? I think my foundation maybe came from a headline I got on Twitter. No offense. Or an article I read that like echoed my position in the first place.
Yeah.
And as I walk through and the person allows me to break it down, as I break it down, I'm like, you know what? I retract. It doesn't add up.
I
Man.
appreciate that you said that, because oftentimes the foundation, I believe, for someone coming out with those types of statements, you're wrong, or I totally disagree.
Yeah.
It's coming from their experiences. It's coming from what they surround themselves with, oftentimes, because the opposing thought might be a little challenging
100%
to the way that they've experienced the world.
Yeah.
And so, I can understand that it can be a little agitating, perhaps, to one, ask for a different perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and then two, to be like, oh man, I actually do agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
But how much does that expand our minds when
Totally.
we can agree with a thought that at the start we didn't vibe with?
It takes time, which we can't afford, you guys.
Yeah.
It's not like hours and hours of analyzation.
Mm-hmm.
It takes time, and it takes humility. I mean, I'm smiling when Jason was sharing, because we work together. We're like really close, but we don't always mesh perfectly, you know?
Right.
We don't ever have big blowouts because our rhythm and style is pretty similar. We're both coming from a hard place, but
Next Thursday, we'll be
yeah,
like, listen.
I got like a cut. I fell down. But you and I will chop stuff up, and you're coming from a different life experience than me. You know, you can help me understand like what it's like to have parents that were born in Puerto Rico, yet immigrated to New York.
Right.
I can't connect on that.
Mm-hmm.
I can only connect on my experience. You can connect on having served in the military. I can't. You know what I mean? You can connect on working with wounded veterans. I can't. It's just about, when you say help me understand, what you're saying is, I think there's three ways you're going to end up landing.
Right.
You're going to land on, you clarified that for me. I now have more information than I did before, and my position I was taking didn't have a strong foundation. Got it?
Yeah.
That's one.
Yeah.
That's not a loss. That's not a loss. It's not like, oh, I lost.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Like, we got to stop going in like I'm going to win or lose. It's not win or lose. It's get to the truth. So one is you're going to come and like, thank you, Jason. You clarified that for me. And I wasn't coming in with that much info. Now I get it. The second one could be you start breaking it down and you realize, you know what? It's not adding up.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not a loss either. That means you actually were able to reposition your position so you don't do it again in another scenario that may not be as graceful. Here's a third position. And this one you talk about a lot, which I love, is you may break it down and you may have a conclusion from your lived experience that's a little different than my conclusion from my experience. And we might do something that we need to do more of that you've written a blog about, which is to agree that we may not perfectly see it the exact same way. Right. And that's, I think, where it gets tricky because it's not so black and white anymore. It's like, you know, agree to disagree.
I like the way that you tee those up. And what I would add, if I could, to that is that ultimately the good thing about all of that is that the totally disagree or that doesn't make sense or you're wrong is not a hard stop.
No.
It's an opportunity to have the conversation.
Yeah.
And when you can have the conversation with someone and both people are agreeing that they are in that space together, trying to navigate the course together, trying to get somewhere together, whether they have to walk down two separate paths at the end, the conversation and them sitting down and breaking bread and chopping it up that thing is ultimately what grows both of them.
And when you're living in, and we all do it, when you're living in your own echo chamber, right? And you're around a bunch of people that all think the same way you think, and live in the same kind of rhythm you live in, and you have the same sharing the same socioeconomic vibe. You know what you do? You don't say, help me understand, because you're very rarely disagreeing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then what you end up with is a lot of agreement, but you're not getting some opposed viewpoints, opposed positions, some feedback. So,
and it's not easy.
It's like
there are a lot of harder topics than saying, hey, you're wrong on
100%.
on something that may not matter in the big scheme of things.
Aaron and I think, I can't remember. We were talking, I think, about like some, client survey that we were doing. So the stakes can get higher, but I'll tell you, if you can start practicing the help me understands on the client survey, on the stuff you're working with at work, help me understand why we chose purple balloons instead of yellow balloons, right? It actually all feeds together. You can start build a muscle. So then when you do get to some stuff that can really be emotional, that you actually have had a little practice in stopping and say, hey, help me understand, and breathing and removing some of that emotion and letting people walk through that. Yes, there are different levels and different stakes in terms of the topics, but I think if you don't even start practicing, you won't even be ready for when you're and I could go over a list of them. I think we all know them. But when some of those, what we call polarizing conversations, those complex conversations, man, we need to get ready, because once you start asking someone to help me understand for some of those really emotional conversations, you may find that that's all you wanted was just to get there. And you may realize that the conversation may not be as complicated and tricky as you may have thought.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anyway.
That's good. So Steve, what I've done here is I've actually brought out an article today. You guys know the rhythm here. Every so often we'll bring out an article just to help kind of make the conversation a little more fruitful here. And so this article actually, when I was going to school at Gonzaga, go Zags.
Jason got his master's there. Not just because they were a good basketball team, right?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't going to make the team anyway, but I would have tried out. I just went out there to be bold.
Getting all into the screen right
now. But it's called Get on the Balcony.
Okay.
And so the one of the headlines here is why leaders need to step back and get perspective.
Oh, yeah.
And so the idea of getting on the balcony is that we are all on this dance floor together. And sometimes you and I are caught up in the dance. I'm caught up in the dance and I'm moving around. I'm actually on there. And I can experience what's happening right there. Right. So you said you're on the echo chamber. With the dance floor is the echo chamber.
Yeah.
But if I never step off of the dance floor, to go up to the balcony, to get a different perspective, to remove myself from even my own thoughts and look down on myself dancing on the balcony or dancing on a dance floor. I'm going to be stuck here on the dance floor amongst this, like battling and bumping with you for space on the dance floor.
And let's keep going there. you're going to feel the endorphins. You're going to feel the emotion of being on the dance floor, which sometimes can make you lack perspective because you just get emotional. This is who wrote that article?
This is Heifetz. This is
give credit where credit's due.
Yeah, Heifetz and Linsky.
Yeah, and Jason teed this up right before we went live to kind of share with me. He was going to lift this up, and I love this, and it reminds me of something. It just hit me, and I'm not just saying this to brag. I went to a small prep school, so I played quarterback at the high school. I probably would not have played quarterback at the big public school. With that said, I played quarterback.
Give yourself more credit.
And I'll never forget a good coach. In the midst of it all, I got emotional when I played quarterback, which is not a nice combo. And my good coach pulled me aside and actually made me sit out a series, not to like shame me. He needed for me to see the game, just like you said, from the balcony, from the other side. I remember I calmed down. He had his arm on my shoulder and he just said, "Hey, Steve, I want you to watch how this series is playing out." And then even go further. And you've said this. That's why in sports, especially like football as an example, they break down film because they can take a break and actually watch it from a different, but they can still see themselves. And I think, like you said, when we're chopping it up all the time and we're in the Twitter sphere and we're in the arguments and we're in the meetings and we're in the whiteboards and we're in it all, like no one's pulling us aside. Hey, you know what I want you to do? I want you to watch this whole thing from a different perspective.
And what I would like for you to think on as I read a little bit here is to, and we might have said at the onset, but like, what is a different way to, if you have a different position, right, to come in and so we said, help me understand, but how might we be able to reframe your wrong? Aside from help me understand.
That's good. I mean, it really just becomes a semantics thing. Like, what are some phrases we can use? You know, I mean, I'm just going. We didn't practice this. I'm going off the top, and I'm only going from my experience here in Game On. We have a small team. We have a lot of trust, but it's, I don't know if that.
I have one for you.
Oh yeah, go for it.
One that I go to, and I guess when I'm thinking that the position that is being stated is different from mine, I might say something like, another idea is.
There you go. That's good. And that seems natural. Listen, we want to also make sure we're not sounding like, patronizing and cheesy. Like, I even think
these are ways to have better conversations.
I like that one a lot, actually. It kind of goes back to that kind of yes and idea. Like, I'm actually going to throw this one out, but you may not agree with it. And if you don't, let me know. Help me understand. There's one that we use.
You're wrong.
I totally disagree. We get into a fight. I'm like, that didn't. How'd the live stream go? At the beginning it went well, and then we just didn't understand each other.
Stopped about 17 minutes in.
You lose sound? No, we just got in a fight. Do as we say, not as we do. There is one I hear a lot, and I just don't know if it resonates. And if you want to chat in, let me know. Let us know. I hear you. That one's interesting. I don't know if that one
seems a little dismissive.
I do. I feel like I hear you use the fallback, and I think
we've used it.
Oh, we all use it. But I'm like, all right, you hear me, but you may not receive what I'm saying. You may not agree with what I'm saying. You may not even respect what I'm saying. I hear you. We may want to go deeper than that one, is what I'm trying to say. Because anyone who says anything, I could say to them, you could speak and nonsense, complete not that you do. You could speak nonsense. We all know it's not. And I could be like, I hear you. I mean, it's nothing.
Sometimes to me, when I think about this, is where is the heart behind what it is that you're saying, regardless of the response? Where is the heart in it? So if you say, I hear you, again, it goes back to tone too. I know when you say, I hear you, whether it's kind of a dismissive, I hear you,
so good,
or it's like, I hear, like, I'm with you in it. I hear you, Steve. I like deeply, I hear you. And I agree with you on this, this, and this. But let me take it further.
What you're saying is so important. I just wrote in my notes on my phone. I'm pointing over there. My phone's over there. And Gretchen's coming in. What about instead of I hear you is I understand where you're coming from. It's great. Gretchen, it's good to see you. Where's the heart? Pest said precisely. It's good to see some old friends up here. I want to go to what Jason just said. For those that are tuning in, I'm going to probably write a blog off of this. It's called Posture. It just hit me this morning. It's like Jason said it beautifully. Maybe you'll write the blog because you said it better than me. What is your posture? What's your heart? You're doing it. You're doing it, man. No, but you know, where your heart is, people can feel that. People can feel it. We're not talking like specific faith groups. We're just literally talking about human beings can feel like, are you coming from a place of a heart? Like literally, are you saying, I hear you and you're being dismissive? Are you saying like, I hear you and I truly, truly respect you. I'm not fully understanding everything you're saying, but I hear you. And I think you nailed it. And I think so we can come up with any phrase. And it's really, to me, it's about, is it coming from a true heart-centered place, or are you just placating and dismissing and condescending the person? That's it. That'd be my answer. So actually, I think all the phrases can be impactful and they can also be very dismissive.
And I would also say that, you know, because we say these phrases, I totally disagree, that doesn't make sense, you're wrong. Sometimes in the heat of what's taking place, right?
Yeah.
We have to check the temperature of the room and regulate the heat. And these statements could get thrown out. But also understanding where you are in a relationship with this person is important.
Huge. And that's why I said, from my perspective in the Game On team, we spend a lot of time together. You know, and that's a big part of it. It's not just tone and your posture and your heart, but Jason, I'm just repeating what you said, is you got to have some discernment and common sense. Is who am I talking to? What's the relationship I have with them? I mean, let's be real. We're not just talking about business. We're talking about relationships. We're talking about spouses. We're talking about husbands and wives and boyfriends and girlfriends and uncles and aunts. And you know what I mean? Like, take this for wherever you are in your life. And I'm going to say, help me understand, way differently to someone yelling at me on Twitter than I am to my 10-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
Unless my 10-year-old daughter's yelling at me on Twitter. And if she's doing that, we got a problem.
I think when some of these things come up, obviously in the organizational space, we talk about conflict and healthy conflict, and it's important to have those types of conversations and everything. And I think sometimes, at least in some of my experiences, like we use the healthy conflict and the conflict as a mask for us to be able to talk to someone any which way and kind of have these undertones, right? And then we think that we can say phrases like, I totally disagree, or you're wrong. And it's through the lens of healthy conflict. But it's not.
It's rude.
It's just rude.
It's rude.
And it's not great.
It's true.
And it doesn't build relationships and connections, the type of connections that you would want to have.
Yeah. I love when people are like, you can't offend me. Yeah, you can.
Okay, watch this. Pull this one out of my pocket here.
No, but think about that. People are like, oh, no, listen, man, you can come at me. I'm an open book. And listen, all these phrases, again, are not, it's like a brick. It's how it's used. You could build a hospital, you could break a window. So that's pretty simple metaphor, but you nailed it. Like, folks, please don't say you can't offend me. Like, you all can be offended. Mark Asper. Mark was trained at IMG Academy years ago. Man, I got to get my glasses on to read this. I'm shouting you out, Mark. What a great guy.
It says, and you guys can read as well. It says, maybe it's just semantics again, but I see you includes seeing their posture, emotion, eye contact, etc.
Come on, Mark.
Voice is part of the person. So I hear you communicates to me that you hear this part, but seeing is recognition of the whole person and all they, I believe that says bring, but yeah.
That was good, Mark. I got to give him Mark shout out.
All they bring with their idea that you may disagree with.
Come on. Yeah. Mark trained at IMG Academy, played in the NFL, wonderful, smart, just talk about a heart-centered guy, heart-centered guy. I mean that. I want to throw something out to the team. We got Gretchen here, we got Pes, we got Mark, and I know we got a lot of folks that are just listening and viewing and that don't type in because they can't from their platform. Something just hit me. When I'm on both sides. I'm on the one that can be like, help me understand. I also have been in the situation where people have asked me, hey, Steve, walk me through this. And here's what I've realized in organizations. If you create a heart-centered place where
you say, walk me through this, what is the
when I've been on both ends, I've been the one who says, help me understand.
Okay.
And I've also been a lot on the time where people are saying to me, help me understand. Like, I'm the one that has to do the explaining. You with me?
Yep.
It just goes back and forth. But here's what just hit me. And we can chop this up a little bit. If you create a culture where like if I know Jason, I'm going to come to you with something and I know your heart, but I know you're going to say, Steve, help me understand. Let me tell you something. I'm not coming in with a hot take. I'm coming in prepared.
Gotcha.
You got it? It's like when you have that teacher that like, you're going to have to prove your proof. When you know you're going to come into class, you have to prove your proof versus the teacher that all you got to do is write one headline on the board. And they're like, Steve, that was great.
Yeah.
You approach that experience way differently. When you know, we're going into like, I remember there was an acting teacher that we had, Les Hendricks at Northwestern. Like, you didn't play with him. You came in, you better be ready. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking that could be a really interesting culture shift where you know, when you come in, people are going to ask you, hey, help me walk through this. And you're going to come in with maybe some more preparation and not just some headline, some hot take. Does that make sense?
It does. And there's also an understanding there, but there's also an understanding there of the person that is coming in with a certain level of preparedness.
Yep.
Knowing that the people in the room and the people on the other side are coming from totally different angles, totally different perspectives. Somebody could be walking in from a meeting that just finished
100%.
60 seconds ago. So they can have varying levels of preparedness that they need to be ready for. Because somebody in the room could be hot.
Yep.
And they're like, well, help me understand. And you're like, you have to pause for a second and be like, okay, let me understand where this person is coming from.
Yeah.
Right. That's to go into the balcony.
Yeah.
And understanding what's happening on the dance floor and be like, okay, that person right now is in a slow dance. That person right now is over there dancing to reggaeton or whatever that like
reggaeton.
Right. That you have to be prepared to do that when you're in that position.
Yeah. Man. I think about Mark, as a football player, Mark, you watched film of yourself. You had to be in the midst of it in like the scrum. You had to be pulled off sidelines to watch the thing play out. Mm-hmm. And I really think we can run with some of these metaphors. I'm seeing too much of it. And it's not just social media, man. Like, that is part of it. I do have to admit, I don't post as much on Twitter, but I read a lot on Twitter. And
a lot of this does happen on social.
It does.
Because the relationship isn't.
It's not there.
It's not there.
In fact, it's a bunch of loud from both sides.
Yeah.
And then people just are basically defaulting just offensiveness, quick. You only have 140 characters, so it's not easy to share, but it's easy to shut down quick.
You know what I like too about that is the opportunity that it presents, because we know when we post. So when we're in a live space and we're working with teams and we know that there's a certain relationship there and we can get somewhere.
Yeah.
But when we might post something or we want to communicate something through whatever platform that we have, if we're in a position where our voice is being sought after and we post something and somebody disagrees and comes back with something like that, we can then flip it and be like, okay, if they say I totally disagree or that doesn't make sense or you're wrong, we can say, help them understand.
Yeah.
And imagine if we pause for a second and we're like, okay, I don't know this individual, but I'm just going to try to help them understand and see if we might be able to build a bridge here.
Yeah, it's good.
Which is tough.
It's really tough. Someone just hit me. I got to say, Mark, I'm going to give you credit for it, but I'm going to borrow it. The eye in the sky doesn't lie.
Oh, yeah. Tell me more.
Well, I think it goes back to your balcony thing. Mark being a former NFL player. Blair just chimed in. I love it. Blair's got a virtual. She's teaching from 1 to 9 tonight, and she's jumping in to share as well. Angie's in there too. What did Blair say? Rhetoric without trust is just arguing. Ooh, come on, Blair Bloomston. I can borrow that from her because she's my business partner. So I'll give her credit. But all these things.
This is amazing. By the way, this is amazing. Everybody chiming in today.
Read that one because your eyes are better than mine.
I have had so many of these situations the last couple of months, both sides, and it's been humbling. So important that we're open to understand others. Thanks, guys. Great stuff as always.
Oh, is that Angie? Come on, Angie. So great. I love all what was said. Blair wrote, rhetoric without trust is just arguing. The eye in the sky doesn't lie. Mark came in and what I think.
You wanted to touch on that.
Well, Asper was just saying as a former NFL football player, like he had to watch breakdown film and kind of goes back to the balcony. By the way, when we look down, we're going to our notes. I don't want you to think, we're not looking at Twitter. We're not looking at Twitter. But yeah, and we don't always have the luxury of breaking down film like you would if you're a professional athlete. But how can we do that in our how can we do that metaphorically? Like stop and reset and create sort of a slow things down, remove yourself from the meeting, ask for feedback. I want to hit one other thing, kind of stays in this land.
What you said to slow it down really stuck with me.
Well, in film, they literally slow it down. They break it down. They rewind, and it's strenuous, and it takes some time. Now, granted, in the work environment, we can't always videotape our meetings. I don't encourage that, but how can we, without that technology, still like slow things down, remove yourself from the meeting, take a break. There's another one I just want to throw out under this theme of help me understand. And that is, I don't even know if you have to have an exchange with another person to put yourself through this process. And what I mean by that, just going to throw this out and come on in, folks, with feedback, is it's also maybe not a bad exercise before I even, like, I'm going to use my position as my role in Game On. I don't have to get around. We have a gray table in our office where we sort of sit. We call it the gray table meeting, where the team will sit together. I don't always have to wait for a gray table meeting to go through this process.
Right.
I may have a take where I just say to myself, hey, Steve, make this clear. Like almost say to myself in the mirror, help me understand. And I'm forcing myself before I come to you to like walk it through. I might find, it's not great table material. It's not I don't have enough intel yet to come in and be like, hey, team, so a lot of times the help me understand can also just be your own individual work. It doesn't have to be you telling someone else, help me understand. It doesn't have to be you waiting for a meeting to be asked that. Mm-hmm. It could be just behind the scenes. You just forcing yourself to put it all together. What did Blair shoot out?
Blair has 7 whys. And so 7 whys is the process. And check me for relevance, Blair, is where you tee up the why, one first why, and that's going to lead to another why and another why. And then you kind of just go down. And
we used to play that exercise when Blair and I were at IMG Academy, and we pulled it from what kids do. You'll say something and children will be like, why? Why? And it's like getting to the heart. Like we thought of it as like a lollipop, getting to the center of the lollipop. And at first it's frustrating. You know why it's frustrating? Because it forces you to get to the heart of it. And why? Why?
That, and it feels challenging if you're in a conversation with somebody. So remembering again, like through the lens, obviously this is through the lens of heart and empathy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the 7 whys is through the lens of empathy. Help me understand is through the lens of empathy.
Yeah. Where's the root of it? And again, it takes time. We've said it a couple of times. It takes time and it takes humility. Both of those things. And we always say, well, especially with the time, well, we can't afford it. No. I truly feel like we can't afford not to do it, because we can't at least get, and again, it's a practice, and you can't be diving into every intense, complex thing every hour on the hour. But we got to sometimes start thinking like, what's the heart of it? When I react in a fired up way to something, sometimes I have to say to myself, I got to understand, where's that coming from?
Right.
And I may be reacting to something that has nothing to do with what's going on at the gray table. Right.
Yeah.
But I have to dig a little, and I may be reacting to something that came from a prior meeting, or someone said a word that like really frustrated me. And now I'm reacting in front of that person, and they don't deserve that level of you call like level of dance in the dance floor.
Yeah, that's good. And I just wanted to point out a couple words from the blog here that go along with what you're saying.
Cool.
Maturity.
Yeah, I mean, when I wrote that, the sentences, it takes emotional and intellectual bandwidth and maturity to avoid relying on dismissive. Look, give yourself some grace as you grow, and I'll still be guilty of these mistakes. Maturity comes from experience. Maturity comes from growth. Maturity comes from learning from your mistakes and not trying to make those same mistakes over and over again. But that's what I was thinking when it came to maturity. Like I said, 10 years ago, Shemi is not going to be, I'm hoping none of us are in the place we were 10 years ago, that we've grown,
right,
and that we've matured, So
Mark, we got a comment here.
I love that Asper, all of you are in here.
It says, no tape, but a way to capture understanding and meaning in a meeting, or when presenting, create a spotter, a confidant in your pre-work. Ask someone in the meeting to give you feedback afterwards.
That's great. I'm curious, actually, not Mark, you don't have to type in on this, but like, I wonder, is that acknowledged? Because that's a great one.
That's a great good
if
to
you
do.
Have a team, that's a great good to do. We're really into good to do's at Game On, where it's like, it's not just information, it's actually applicable practical action. That is an applicable practical action where we have a meeting in the Game On setting. I could say, hey, Jason, just keep an eye on how I handle this meeting. And I'm trying to be clear and concise. I want to end the meeting on time, and I want to make sure everyone feels encouraged and empowered. I think that's what you're saying, Mark. And then afterwards, Jason and I could literally spend 5 minutes, and I can just be like, hey, you know, as my accountability coach, did I hit? How'd I do? And you could be like,
That's
bro, you interrupted a little bit. You shut someone down, you know, whatever.
Mhm.
I'd get some. I like that.
Yeah.
That's
Speaking
good.
of interrupting, we know that we've had you guys on here
Ooh, the transition
for a good period of
Ooh.
time, which is beautiful. This level of conversation and dialogue with us. I mean, we're helping to feed one another right now. So hopefully, even like some of the good to-dos you picked up on for yourself, you took some notes here. Obviously, Steve and I are engaged in the conversation here, but you all being here makes it that much more fruitful and rewarding for us.
Yeah.
And with that, you know, in our Game On blog, we have our song of the week.
Come on.
And so our song of the week this week is actually to go along with the dance at the balcony.
Okay.
Is I Want to Dance with Somebody by Whitney Houston.
I want to dance with somebody. I want to feel the heat with somebody.
And it makes sense to me, right? Because when we think about what we've discussed today, when I want to dance with somebody, like, don't just go in and say you're wrong or I disagree.
Yeah.
Like, go in there, like, wanting to be a part of the dance, understanding that the dance requires both you dancing and both of you going up to the balcony to see what's happening.
Come on. And some flow and some trust. You're going to dance with someone differently if you have a bit of a relationship with them, and then you know their needs and you know their comfort level and you know the style of dance that they like and you know who likes to lead and who likes to follow. Whoa, that's a huge metaphor, man. I love that. And that's a good song. I didn't know that song was coming up.
Yeah,
I didn't know. Jason always catches me on surprise on those songs.
Yeah,
but man,
you knew the lyrics though.
I did because I'm versed. Shimmy.
Thank you all for being here. We greatly appreciate it. Please don't quit your day jobs to sing. I don't know. We consider it. We consider it.
I love that we always go into falsetto.
Gretchen, help me understand why you think we should pursue singing.
Gretchen, I love it. Yeah, please don't quit your day jobs. I love it. We won't, by the way. Yeah. But I can karaoke. We'll talk about that in another blog.
All right, peeps. Thank you guys so much. Here every Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Bring some peeps with you next time. Let's grow this community.
Yeah, Angie, Mark, Pess, Blair. Thank you all for jumping in and sharing your voice. And we love it. Let's continue to help each other understand. Cool.
Indeed.
All right.
All right.
Game on.
Game on.